Hello, I'm Jeff Pearce, and this is Ethiopia. We're in Gondar. This place used to be the seat of many Ethiopian emperors. Gondar is also the home to many Amhara people. What's going on right now in Ethiopia is a war on two fronts, one on very real battlefields, and one is a propaganda war. Continued on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and the kind. But what's happening is you're not getting the real story, the real background to why Ethiopia is at war with the TPLF, the Tigray People's Liberation Front. The TPLF don't have history on its side, so they've decided to make up their own. Well, we're going to give you the real background to this conflict and explain to you why the West is being misled by a terrorist group. This is a beautiful country, rich in natural resources, culture, food, and unique history, with more than 100 million people in some 80 different ethnic groups. It's in Africa, so the default mindset for Westerners is to think, oh, it's ethnic rivalry. Well, it's more complicated than that. If you're an American watching this, imagine living through the 9/11 attacks on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon, or if you're British, what's known as the 7/7 bombings, and some big-wheel politician or analyst from another country told you that you have to negotiate with Al-Qaeda. Well, Ethiopia had its own 9/11 last year. It was on the night of November 3rd, 2020, when the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, attacked several military bases of the Ethiopian Federal Army. There were TPLF soldiers among the federal ranks who betrayed their own comrades in arms and slaughtered them in the night.
24 ላይ ውጊያ ማታ ኃይለኛ ተኩስ ነበር ካምቦ ውስጥ ጥይት በጥይት ነው እሳት ነው ከዛ እኛም አናቅም እኛ ሰላም ሀገር ውስጥ ነው ትግራይ ህዝብና ህገ መንግስት ተቋም ጠብቀን ቆይተናል አሁን የሚዋጋ ማን ነው ሻቢያ ጋር ታርቀናል በመሃል ማን መጣ ብለን ስንጠይቅ ሰው የሚያውቅ የለም አናቅም ነው የሚሉ ከዛ ተነስተን እንግዲህ ምንም ቢሆን ለመለየት ያህል ማሰራ ይዘን ዙሪያውን ግቡን ቁጭ ያለንበት ጊዜ ማታ ተኩስ በተኩስ ይሆናል አላው ማታ 8 ሰዓት አካባቢ ነው ጀምረው
You'd think that would be fairly straightforward, wouldn't you? But no, the Western media keep on saying it's claimed that there was an attack on Ethiopian bases. Except we know the TPLF attacked the bases because they told us loud and clear that they did it.
መብረቃዊ የሆነ እርምጃ መወሰድ ነበረበት የሰሜን እዝን ከተባበሩት እጃችን አናነሳም ካሉት የእዙ አባላት ጋር በመተባበርና ሊተባበር ፈቃደኛ ያልሆኑትን ደግሞ በኃይል ተልኳቸው እንዳይወጡ ዲሞቢላይዝ ወይም ደግሞ ዲስቴብላይዝ በማድረግ የተደረገ እንቅስቃሴ ነው
ዙሪያ እኛም እነሱ ሲተኩሱ እኛም ማርስ እየሰጠን ቆየን እና 24 25 23 3 ቀን ሙሉ ተዋግተን በስተመጨረሻ ላይ ማሳራም አንሰጥም ጥይት ካለቀ ይለቅ እንጂ ብለን እየተኮሰን ጥይት ጨርሰን የሚደርሰው አሃድ ያጣን ያ ጊዜ መንግስት ገና በግንባሩ በዚህ ተዋግተው እስከሚደርስ እኛም ተሸግረን ነበርና 3 ቀን ያለ ምግብ ያለ ውሃ ተዋግተን እነሱ ጋር
Adamne Alula has been recuperating in a hospital for veterans in the Gondar region. We weren't allowed to disclose its location or to film the building itself for security reasons. Irga Mulgeta is another soldier who's been wounded and is recovering.
በሰዓቱ ጥቃቱን ልክ ሌሊት ነው እኛ ከምኝታ ተነስተናል ምንድነው ነው ያለኝ እኛ ሰላማዊ ሰው ነን ኢትዮጵያን ለመጠበቅ ዳር ድንበራችን አስከብረን ለመኖር ነው እኛ ፍላጎታችን ያገር ዳር ድንበር ጠብቀን ለመቀመጥ ነው የኛ ስራ ማለት ነው እና ከህብረተሰቡ ጋር ለመጣላቱን ግጭትም የለብን ህዋት ግን ያሰበው የሰሜን እዝን ጠቅላላ ንብረትና መሳሪያ አስረክቡ ነው ያሉ አናስረክብም ነው እኛ ደግሞ አስረክቡ ስለአናስረክብ ጦርነቱ በዛው ብዙ ሰው ገደሉብን
And yet the Western media has consistently taken the TPLF's side.
Tigrayans are a minority, but you also already have all these different disparate groups kind of together in this centralized process. That centralization is what is currently falling apart because when you bring in militia from other regions, and that's what the doctor was talking about Amharization, when you bring in Amhara ethnic militia that historically have enmity with Tigray, then that's what you see. You see ethnic cleansing taking place off a basis of a competition for power.
To use the term Amharization, whether intentional or not, is to rely on an ethnic cleansing code word of a terrorist group, and it's deeply offensive to millions of Amhara and Ethiopians in general. What many in the West don't know is that the TPLF literally wrote their hate of Amhara into a manifesto decades ago. Time and again, Ethiopian forces have been portrayed as the villains.
CNN. We're CNN. Journalists.
It's impossible.
We are journalists.
It's impossible.
Sir, tell us.
Before ask our commander.
We spoke. No.
The soldier spots our camera.
Sir.
They're incredibly tense.
It's okay.
The soldiers close in on us.
We asked there.
Why not asking our commander?
Sir, we asked.
As we're pulled to one side, we turn on our covert camera.
Are we detained? And unless we are detained, we're not giving them the camera. We'll only go to the administration, the civilian administration. If you want to have detained a CNN team, then that's what's happened now.
Let me be candid with you. These soldiers were willing and wanted to talk with us. We were interrupted when someone high up in an office somewhere found out about our small crew and realized that we didn't have the proper paperwork. But that doesn't invalidate what these men have to say. Netsanet Laku is the managing editor of Balagero TV in Addis Ababa. He and I worked together to interview the sources and develop this segment. I don't think he's very impressed by Western reportage, especially in how it's failed to do its homework on the background to this conflict.
The Western media, they are here, I don't know, with their own objective. I don't know how to say that, but most of the time it doesn't seem like they try to balance the story from every perspective. They always try to put the story from one side, especially they usually try to put the TPLF story in the front page, whereas most of the time they don't try to listen to the wider society or to the other part of the story. So the problem is that they always write and present a story with one side of the story, with one side. That's the problem we're facing right now.
You're actually fighting people who are other Ethiopians, Tigrayans, the TPLF. What do you think of that?
እነሱ ሀገሪቷን እስከ ዛሬ ድረስ ለማፈራረስ በጣም ሞክረዋል። ኢትዮጵያ ሕዝብና ኢትዮጵያ ወጣት ኃይል ኢትዮጵያ መከላከያ ሰራዊት የኢትዮጵያ በየትኛው ክልል ያለ ልዩ ኃይልና ሚሊሻ ሆኖ ሀገሪቱን ሰላም ያስከብረ ነው ያለ እንጂ ቲኤልኤፍ የሚባለው ድርጅት በጣም ለኢትዮጵያ ሕዝቦች ለኢትዮጵያ መንግስት በጣም አደገኛ ጠላት የሆነ ድርጅት ነው። ይሄ ሲባል የትም ሀገር ፖለቲካ ሁኔታው በማድረግ በእስክሪቶ በንግግር ይፈታል እንጂ በውጊያ አይደለም። ይሄን እነሱ ነው ውጊያ የፈጠሩ እንጂ የኛ መንግስት አልፈጠረም። ሰራዊቱ ላይ መነሻ ውጊያ ያነሱ እነሱ ናቸው የተዋጉ። የራሱን ሀገርና ተቋም የሚጠብቅ የትም ሀገር ውጊያ እኔ እንደዚህ አይነት ድርጅት አይቼ አላውቅም።
Worse, the TPLF are willing to use children as cannon fodder, and they have those in the West who are willing to defend this practice.
ህጻናቶች የ15 ዓመት ህጻን የ14 የ13 ናቸው። በዛ ከተባለ እድሜያቸው ይዛን ያክል ህጻናቶች እያየን መምታት ስለማንችል መድኃኒት ነው ፓወር ፕላስ የሚባል አለ እጽ መድኃኒቶች አሉ አደንዛዥ እጽ ናቸው እነዚህ መድኃኒት እየተጠቀሙ መሳሪያ ይዘዋል መተኮስ አይችሉም አቅም የላቸውም ስለዚህ እነሱን አንመታም ብለን እኛ ስንል እነሱ እየገሰገሱ ሲመጡ ከኋላ አሉ እነሱ ጁንታው ሚሊሻ ልዩ ኃይሉ የህወሓት አባል በሙሉም ከኋላ ስለነበር እነሱን እያየኛ ዝም ስል እኛ ነው የተመታን በግልባቸው የነበረው ይሄ ነው
They don't have a basic understanding of Ethiopian history. They don't go back to the roots of the problem. They just here to see what's happening right now. But what's happening right now have its own root, which lied upon maybe 50, 60 years back, especially when TPLF, the inception of TPLF in 1967. It all started from that time onwards. So these journalists came here with no understanding of Ethiopian history. Not even the far one, like the imperial history, they might not need to understand that part of the story. But at least for the recent situation, for what's happening now, it's really good and it is really missed to understand the previous time.